Ted Bundy was a notorious serial killer and a porn addict who preyed on young college-aged women mostly. He was a moderate-looking man and pretended to be injured or needing help while targeting his victims. He was an active killer between 1974 and 1978. During that time, he confessed to kidnapping, raping, killing, and returning to defile the corpses of 30 women, most of whom were young college-age girls. His usual methods included pretending to be injured. He would wear an arm sling or walk on crutches and appear to be a soft, feeble man. He knew how to make the women feel sorry for him. Just picture a male feminist who injured his arm opening a jar. When he would ask a young girl for help, he would wait for her to turn her back, then strike her in the back of the head with a blunt object, usually a crowbar. He killed in other ways as well. In one instance, he broke into a sorority house in Florida through a window. He strangled two women and beat them to death with a wooden log, raping one of them and brutally biting her on her hips and breast. Most of Bundy's victims died from the initial strike. He removed the passenger seat from his 1968 Volkswagen Bug to transport the bodies of his victims without getting caught. Brave of him, since getting pulled over would essentially let an officer see his prey inside the car, and this is exactly how he was eventually caught during a routine stop run by the cops. Some believe Bundy hated women. That belief is incorrect. He idolized women, making them his life's purpose. Ted Bundy was a sick, twisted, and a weak man who was obsessed with women. In his mind, he thought he was a good guy. He rationalized his addiction to women, never facing what he did and continually denying what he did until the last years of his life. As sick as he was, Hollywood still made a movie about his life. They cast Zac Efron to play Bundy, portraying him as a wrongly accused, handsome male feminist throughout the entire movie, only showing one killing at the end of the movie. Whereas in reality, he raped and killed 30 women, with his youngest victim being a 12-year-old girl. The film, however, romanticized him in a gross and a strange approach that doesn't make a lot of sense to someone outside of Hollywood. His life isn't useless to others. You can learn from everyone, even messed up people like Ted Bundy. You can learn how to prevent anyone from doing what he did. You can make sure you never fall to the depths of his dark addiction to women. Listening to Ted Bundy may be the best method to learn why he did what he did.
My experience with, I say pornography generally, but with pornography that deals on a violent level with sexuality, is that once you become addicted to it, and I look at this as a kind of addiction, like an addiction, you keep craving something which is harder, something which gives you a greater sense of excitement, until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far. You reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it or looking at it. Listen, I'm no social scientist, and I haven't done a survey. I mean, I don't pretend that I know what John Q. Citizen thinks about this. But I've lived in prison for a long time now. And I've met a lot of men who were motivated to commit violence just like me. And without exception, every one of them was deeply involved in pornography, without question, without exception, deeply influenced and consumed by an addiction to pornography. There's no question about it. The FBI's own study on serial homicide shows that the most common interest among serial killers is pornography. Those of us who have been so much influenced by violence in the media, in particular pornographic violence, are not some kinds of inherent monsters. We are your sons and we are your husbands. And we grew up in regular families, and pornography can reach out and snatch a kid out of any house today. He snatched me out of my home. It snatched me out of my home 20, 30 years ago. And as diligent as my parents were, and they were diligent in protecting their children, and as good a Christian home as we had, and we had a wonderful Christian home, there is no protection against the kinds of influences that are loose in the society that tolerates
From his last words, it's obvious that Ted Bundy was a porn addict. He began watching porn like anyone else. After some time, regular porn didn't work for Bundy anymore. He needed something more. In his last interview, Bundy says that without a doubt, it's porn that causes a behavior like his. Straight, porn-addicted men have shared that they watch gay, transsexual, hardcore, or violent porn just to get off, even though they're repulsed by the material, no different than Bundy. Bundy began watching hardcore pornography because normal porn no longer got him off. And from hardcore porn, it became hardcore reality. Porn isn't a drug like cocaine or heroin, but affects dopamine just the same. Like a crack addict, porn addicts need to seek stronger highs, chasing their first orgasm like a crackhead chasing his first high, hustling on street corners. Once Bundy's brain adapted to hardcore violent pornography, there was no other high he could find through porn. In his own words, he said, "Until you reach the point where the pornography only goes so far, you reach that jumping off point where you begin to wonder if maybe actually doing it will give you that which is beyond just reading about it or looking at it." He took matters into his own hands, raping, killing, and defiling female corpses, and in the end he was executed by an electrical chair. Ted Bundy was a terrible human who didn't deserve to live. Ted Bundy's porn addiction led him to commit crimes and was the reason his brain melted in the electrical chair. Watching porn has consequences. They might not be to the level such as in Ted Bundy's case, but why sprout an evil seed in your head hoping it won't become your poison in the future?